All right, here's what needs to happen. BYU has to beat Houston, and they've got to have Iowa State or Arizona State lose on Saturday. You got the lineup right there.
That's the pretty. Arizona State, Arizona. That's at 1:30 on Fox.
So we can know by 3:30, 4 o'clock. If it's a big night.
Yeah, and there are those that there's two schools of thought on this. I've talked to lots of fans, and about half the fans say, we want Arizona State to win that game, and we're going to talk about the next game. That's Kansas State at Iowa State. That's 5:30 on Fox. That's the one we were talking about. The game would be far enough gone, almost over by the time BYU kicks off, so they'll know right about kickoff time, if Kansas State has defeated Iowa State. So either Arizona State or Iowa State has to lose. So here's the two schools of thought. We want Arizona State to win and Iowa State to lose because we want a rematch with Arizona State. We didn't like the antics that happened at the end of the game. We certainly didn't like the way Dillingham acted at the end of the game and should have been penalized. So we want them again. So there's that school of thought. And then there's the other school of thought that is, no, we don't want to have anything to do with Arizona State. We don't think they should be in the championship game because we don't like what happened at the end of the game. We don't like the way Dillingham acted. So some don't want a rematch because they just don't want them to be rewarded. And others want a rematch because they want to have a chance to actually show up and play a better game, especially the first half, because they were really good in that second half, controlled the second half, but they dug themselves too deep of a hole.
We know it's going to be cold in Provo, but the forecast is actually going to be colder in Ames, Iowa.
That's right.
And that's a night game
could
for
snow.
them. And it's just that time of year. It's brutal.
Yeah, I was in the football office today, and we were trying to talk about, so Arizona State at Arizona. Arizona State just seems like they're playing at a much higher level than Arizona, but here's why there's a chance. Because with Fafita and McMillan at wide receiver and the offense that they run where they drop him back 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage, it's hard to get to him, and they throw it all over the place. It seems like if Fafita got hot, there's a chance.
They're playing at home.
There's a chance, and it's a home game and it's a rivalry game. I do think that's a longer shot than Kansas State at Iowa State. Iowa State hasn't been just running people off the field the last couple of weeks, and Kansas State is very skilled and very talented. If the weather's bad, they're both run-based teams, but I think Kansas State is not only run-based with Giddens at running back, but their quarterback is also big-time involved, Avery Johnson, in the run game. I think a bad weather game might actually favor Kansas State, and I think that's a more even matchup, Kansas State and Iowa State. So that would be, to me, the more likely scenario would be for Kansas State to beat Iowa State. That is also a rival game. They call it Farmageddon. It's the two big farm.
I know it. It's just going to be we're going to be watching that while we're doing our pregame show, trying to figure it all out. BYU could play Arizona State, Colorado, or Iowa State, any of those guys in the Big 12 championship. There are 9 teams that are actually not mathematically eliminated, but these are the main ones. I mean, Colorado needs some help.
If both Arizona State and Iowa State lose and Colorado wins, then BYU would play Colorado.
Yeah.
If all 3 of those lose, they could play Baylor, right?
Yeah, now we're into the weeds.
Yeah, now we're really the two most likely scenarios, we're telling you who to root for. And you go root for Arizona to beat Arizona State, so it's settled early in the day. If that doesn't happen, then you become the biggest Kansas State fans in the world, and you root for them to beat Iowa State. And then you got to root your Cougars on because they face Houston at 8:15 on ESPN.
It's our own dang fault that we got to do all this.
Yes,
beat Kansas, beat Arizona State, but here we are.
That Kansas game's now that I watched what they just did last week, I'm going, Kansas might be the best team in the league right now.
They might be, but 13 points at home, that's just inexcusable.
You got to.
Here's the Big 12 standings. BYU, Arizona State, Iowa State, and Colorado tied for first place at 6-2. Then Kansas State, Baylor, TCU, Texas Tech, and West Virginia are next at 5-3. So everyone is just sitting right there, a game apart from each other, except for the Utes. The Utes are all the way down at 15, and the only reason they're not 16 is they managed to beat the 16th place team, Oklahoma State. So that's that. In the AP top 25, by the way, Arizona State is up to 14. Iowa State's at 17. BYU dropped 19, and then Colorado sitting there at 23.
Right. And so let's talk about this week, all of the games, because we mentioned the ones that everybody needs to have an eye on. There's 2 Friday night games in the Big 12 this week. Oklahoma State's at number 16, Colorado. That's at 10 a.m. on ABC. So Thanksgiving weekend day game on a Friday. 10 a.m. Mountain Time on ABC.
It's going to be cold over there.
Yeah, it'll be cold and miserable because they're going to get the weather that we're getting the 2 days before, which
Could
is
Oklahoma
not good.
State rise up? Could they rise up and beat Colorado?
If it's a bad weather game, maybe Ollie Gordon goes off for 200 and something yards.
Maybe.
And then Utah also plays on Friday evening at Central Florida. I don't think they're going to have any snow at that one. That's a 6 p.m. Mountain Time
there's
kick.
no snow. Maybe a hurricane.
That's on Fox. And the big question is, can Utah halt a 7-game losing streak?
I saw a tweet earlier today that said they have not had an 8-game losing streak in 130 years.
Oh, my goodness.
But you know what they're not going to do? Outscore UCF.
Yeah, they're
just not going to.
They're going to have to play lights out on defense. They're going to have to create turnovers because UCF's got way too much offense to just go try to outscore them. And Utah doesn't have enough.
Their shot was to beat Iowa State on their own field when they led late. Just get a stop. Get a stop and get a win, and they just couldn't do it. They're just having a lousy year.
Hey, Ben Hansen says, well, a couple of things. First, Boyd Lake says, Arizona's a much tougher matchup for ASU than many people think. And it's always a good game. I like what Ben Hansen says. We had a great basketball game to watch Saturday night from Cary, Idaho. So we watched. We called a great basketball game. We had to put the game behind us, the football game, and walk across the sidewalk and go call the basketball game.
Put on a tie for that.
Yeah, we had to do that.
There's the Mackeys from Montana.
Yeah, Sam Kim says Dillingham might turn off a lot of folks, but he's a young, energetic coach with potential.
Okay, back to the schedule.
Yeah, so Saturday lineup, Kansas at Baylor at 10 a.m., ESPN2. That's a big game. Those are two teams that are hot down the stretch. That'll be a great game.
Kansas needs a win to get bowl eligible.
Right, yeah. West Virginia's at Texas Tech, 10 a.m. on Fox Sports 1. Number 21, Arizona State at Arizona, 1:30. That's the one we're all watching to start with. TCU's at Cincinnati, 4 p.m. on ESPN+. Kansas State at number 17, Iowa State, 5:30 on Fox. That's the other one we have an eye on. And then, of course, we're all going to be, you and I are going to be more than watching, but we will be working the Houston at BYU game at 8:15 on ESPN National.
Let's talk about, and there are a lot of comments on the stream because a lot of folks were at that game. Arizona State holds off BYU 28-23. Cougs fell behind 21-0, and then they outscored the Sun Devils 23-7 the rest of the way. But they just didn't show up till the second half on offense or defense for that matter. And in a big game like that, you can't take the first half off.
Yeah, and yards weren't that big of a difference for the whole game. And the problem for BYU was in the first half, they gave Arizona State 2 really short fields. And they actually gave them 3, but they recovered from one of them. 3 really short fields. And remember, on the very first drive of the game, BYU drove down and had a 4th down at midfield, just past midfield, and went for it and did not get it.
Yeah.
And so they gave them a half of a field to navigate. And you know what, though? You still got to stop them. Yeah, I would say when you give the ball a short field, your mentality has to be nothing more than a field goal here, right?
I know.
But they gave up a touchdown. Then they also had that fluky squib kick that hit a player and they recovered. Again, they get the ball at midfield and they went down and they scored 7 points. Again, BYU, worst case scenario, hold them to a field goal.
Yeah.
And if those end up being 2 field goals or one of those are a field goal, the end of the game is different. But they let them have the 2 short fields, and BYU's been really good this year on quick turns of limiting teams to force them to at least just kick a field goal or stopping them completely. Remember, on the interception, BYU turned around, stopped them, and got an interception right back. And then BYU didn't capitalize on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, they weren't their normal selves in that first half, and I do think it takes a little while to figure out how to tackle Scadaboo.
Yeah,
he's something else.
They got to him in the second half. They stopped arm tackling him.
Yeah, he's like, his numbers were right at his average. Like, he did what he does every game. But he
did most of it in the first half.
He has 2 effective in the first half, and then they really shut him down pretty well in the second half.
Arizona State was a shell of a team in the second half.
Yeah.
Defense, they had no idea what they were doing.
Sam Levitt didn't do anything to hurt BYU. It was Scadaboo in the first half in short fields. And BYU's offense just couldn't do a thing in that first half. And then when they came out in the second half and opened it up and just said, you know what? We're just going to drop back and chuck it all over the place. Arizona State didn't have a clue how to stop them. They finally got a stop on the last drive. Didn't look like they were even going to stop them on that last drive. And then a wide open receiver overthrown, and they get a pick, and that ends BYU's bid to go score a game-winning touchdown.
Yeah, it was nuts at the end. Jay Drew's going to be along with us in just a little bit. He was down on the field.
I'd love to hear his experience there.
David Nixon will join us a little bit as well. After the game, things got crazy. I saw a tweet or post by Dallin Levitt, the former Cougar, saying some derogatory things, and I watched that, and I'll say this: I just felt sorry for him.
Yeah,
I just felt sorry for him. I wasn't mad at what he said. I was just like, I just feel sorry for him. If that's what you're going to do and post it to a place and a fan base that cheered you on even when you underperformed or weren't healthy enough to get on the field, or they never stopped cheering for you, and for you to take a shot at the fans, I just felt sorry for him.
Yeah, I feel sorry for anybody that goes there, or who, like, just be classy. You know, and look at like all the craziness that happened after that game. What did Kalani say about the Arizona State fans?
Yeah, he was opposite of how Utah handled the end of the
he
BYU
was like, you know what?
game.
Why would I be mad at their fans? They thought they won the game. This is like they were celebrating, and nobody, put us in danger. I mean, it delayed the game a bunch. There probably should not a call on the fans. There probably should have been a call on Dillingham.
Yeah, for
you can't
losing
stand,
his mind.
You can't stand behind an official and look over his shoulder while he's doing a review and scream profanities at him at the top of your lungs and not get a flag. That is ridiculous in my mind.
Yeah.
And I feel like
that's a spineless official. Throw the flag.
Yeah, I think the league should, you can't do that.
Yeah. They were so in over their head, that officiating crew.
Yeah.
Once the security and no one could stop it, and then it became a mess. But then it was like, are you just going to let the moment then dictate how this is going to go?
Yeah,
as opposed to be the official?
And I think everybody agrees that there was a grounding. Yeah. Now, does that give BYU a touchdown? I don't know.
But it gives them 10 more yards.
It gives them 10 more yards, and the throw probably goes in the end zone. Right. And it doesn't change the game, but it's like when somebody's that out of control, you have to make the call.
You can't just go, hey, you know what? It's anarchy. Let's just go with it.
Yeah. Well, we're going to let this slide because it's kind of crazy down here.
We just want to get out of here.
The two people you need to be calm and collected are the two head coaches of those two teams.
One's a little boy, and then there was Kalani.
Right.
And I thought.
It was not a good scene, and there probably should have been a penalty. And I'm not even saying that would have affected the outcome of the game to throw it from 10 or 15 yards further.
But if you're the head coach of Arizona State, for the love, don't throw a tantrum. Don't act like you're 12.
Yeah, it was not.
And his wife was out there, and he did it in front of her and then on all TV, and you're just like, man, I had a lot of respect for you going in.
Yeah.
But just go, hey, there's 1 second.
He's a really good,
deal with it.
He's a really good football coach with a ton of passion, but there is a time to bridle that passion, and that was the time.
Yeah. And that just said to everyone else, just do what you want. Do
you know who I really respect more than ever? Scattaboo. Do you see what he was doing? He was over with the fans saying, come on, guys, let's go. Hey, I need you guys to get off the field. He was over there asking
their fans, is throwing a tantrum.
Asking their fans to please get off the field so they could play the last second while their coach was throwing a tantrum with a profanity-laced tantrum at the officials, directly at the officials. Yeah. It was the coolest head on the Arizona State side was Scattaboo, who we had tremendous respect for before the game.
Yeah.
And then I have tremendous respect for the way he plays the game. And then to watch him step up and do that, I have more respect than ever for Cam Scattaboo. What a great job he did.
So here's what we liked and what we didn't like. And we'll review Blaine's keys. David Nixon's going to join us in just a few minutes, and then Jay Drew is going to be with us top of the hour. We'll get back to that topic because he was in it down on the field.
Well, and by the way, if BYU fans did the same thing, I'd be all over them too.
Yeah.
So this isn't, we're just not saying,
beauty of it is we don't.
We lost some more sour grapes. If BYU fans did that, I would be very upset.
Yeah, have some class. Here's what we didn't like. We didn't like BYU's. Well, what we did like, let's start with that. We liked the second half performance on offense and defense. We liked that Chase Roberts had 10 targets. Darius Lesser had 11. Combined, they were 10 receptions for 162 yards. We liked that in the second half.
BYU's wide receivers were money in that game, and they're elite level receivers. Keelan Marion rushed for 2 touchdowns.
We liked that.
I liked seeing him in the fly sweep. He also had a brilliant catch in a critical situation in the game. Keelan had a very good game. We liked that. Yeah. And we loved the Cougar Nation showed out.
Yeah.
How many fans? 25,000 maybe?
I don't know, but it was, they were well represented. And I was just, what made it worse for me at church on Sunday, because then I was thinking about the game, part of the time, which, I probably shouldn't have. But the roar that they were just about to get if Retzlaff had hit JoJo Phillips down the sideline for that touchdown.
Yeah.
That would have been the moment where those fans take over the stadium, and then all the ASU fans have to just sit there and listen to them.
Yeah.
It was right there, and then it just didn't happen. But they showed out. We give them a shout out. They show out everywhere. But that one was huge. That was a big crowd.
Yeah.
Here's what we didn't like. We didn't like the slow start.
No. Nope. BYU's inability to get a key stop when they needed it. Like, even if just one of those short fields, you hold him to a field goal.
It's got to be on 4th and 1. You got him in the backfield with two guys.
Break him tackle.
And he gets
perfect call, and you let him break a tackle. So, yeah, you just had to stop him on one of those 2 short fields, and you probably win the game. So we didn't like that. And then the slow start on offense, just too plodding and too slow. I think they need to play with more pace off it. They played with better pace in the second half.
Yeah,
and it got Arizona State on their heels.
We didn't like the chaos at the end of the game.
No.
That's what we didn't like. Let's revisit your keys to beating the Sun Devils, because we like to hold you accountable here on the show.
Yeah.
This show's about accountability. 1, you wanted aggressive and physical on defense. They were weak in the first half, better in the second half.
Yeah, I'm going to give them how you call it the plus minus? I'm giving them a plus minus.
Plus minus?
Because, it's a minus plus. Because minus in the first half, plus in the second half.
Finished drives with touchdowns. They were 2 for 2 touchdowns in the red zone.
They did that. They just didn't get down there enough.
No.
Especially in the first half.
And win the turnover margin to score points off of turnovers. ASU won the turnover battle 2-1. No team scored points off turnovers.
Yeah, but it's BYU's turnovers cost them points offensively. You know what I mean? Their 2 turnovers came when they were driving.
Hey, we remind you, After Further Review is tomorrow night, Tuesday at 5 o'clock Mountain Time on the BYU TV app and ESPN Plus. David Nixon, Blaine, myself, we're going to break down all the big moments, for and against, and why they worked, why they didn't work. And we'll especially look at that finish and preview Houston on Saturday night. So that's on After Further Review. That's tomorrow night on the BYU TV app and ESPN Plus. We got 40 plays to break down.
That's right.
And every one of them had something to do with, dang, that was going to be, or hey, that was pretty good.
Right.
And then, dang, that was going to.
We'll show you what went wrong, and we'll show you what. And the margin is really thin between a play that's a big time play and a play that goes wrong, right?
Yeah.
And what we're finding out in this league too is the margin between the talent level at teams that are even down toward the bottom of the league and the teams in the top of the league is not great. The teams that win are executed at a higher level and play as a team better than the teams. And there's not a huge talent gap from probably 1 through 13 or 14 in this league. There really isn't. So you got to play well every week or you get beat.
We'll preview Houston and get your keys to beating the Red Cougars here in just a couple of moments. All right, let's before we head down the home stretch and get ready for Thanksgiving, a little bit more on Houston. That's been the running theme.
Preview a little bit. Yeah.
BYU's 9-2, 6-2. A win gives them a 10-2 regular season, and we heard Nix and we heard Jay Drew saying that would make it the best 10-win season in the history of the program, even if it doesn't include a trip to Arlington. But we'll see. Houston's 4-7. They're 3-5 in the Big 12. Those 3 wins at home against Utah, at home against Kansas State, and then they beat TCU. 8:15 is the kick on ESPN. Game days at 6 on BYU TV and ESPN Plus. Then we're on for the post-game show. Here's one thing we've never seen before that we're going to see on Saturday. This uniform that I think is going to be awesome.
This is a combo we've not seen, right?
They've never rolled it out.
Navy helmet,
which I love.
Navy face mask.
That's going to be interesting.
We've never seen that on a Navy helmet before, right? Navy jersey,
and I like that
with white trim, white pants with Navy trim.
Now I love Royal, but I also love Navy.
Yeah,
and when they come running out, that's just going to be sharp.
I'm really
under the
anxious
lights.
to see how those helmets look with the Navy face mask on, because we've seen them with Navy with white, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be an interesting look. It should look good. Weather. For
that's
Saturday,
the big one.
You and I are dealing with this too, because we'll be outdoors for 2 hours before, all game long, and then an hour after the game doing post game. The high of 40, low of 22. Game time temperatures will be in the low 30s. So if you're going to the game, dress warm. And if you're at home watching it, get in front of the fireplace.
Yes, turn the gas fire up and we'll hang out with you. Las Vegas has BYU as a 24-point favorite in this one.
Yeah, that's probably
quite a bit. It's biggest of the year.
Yeah. If there's not wet weather, I can see that happening. Although maybe they're not giving Houston enough credit for how good their defense is.
They might be giving them be giving them credit for they can't score.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're thinking, hey, BYU might only score 28, but Houston might only score 7.
Yeah.
Right. So or 6. So I see where they're coming from.
It's our last chance to watch a game at the stadium. Our first game was Southern Illinois. It was like 95 degrees. This one's going to be 30, maybe.
Yeah.
And then it's a long, long time before we come back. So
Right.
enjoy Saturday.
Yeah, and a good crew coming back from this. I was looking at that the other day because when you start to wind down the season, I'm like, who's coming back and who's going to be plugged in? And you know what I love is they created a great culture of winning this season that I think can carry itself into next season, which is great.
Steve says Navy helmets give me Croton era PTSD. Steve, get some help. In fact, I'm going to give you some get helpline numbers after the show.
Hey, and Sylvia, thanks by the way, for wishing us a happy Thanksgiving and sending us some nice emojis. I didn't really, there not many people use emojis in the chat. So
they're showing up here tonight. This is the fourth meeting. Cougs lead 3-0. Last met on a Friday night during the COVID season. Beat Houston, had a big comeback.
And it was a different Houston team. It was a team that was really good on offense and not good on defense. It's like the opposite of this Houston team.
That was 43-26. Zach threw for 400. Dax Milne had like 184 and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. Final home game for the 20 seniors. I sat down with Connor Pay today. Talked to him a little bit about that. That'll be on our pregame show on Saturday.
Good.
So
that'll be good. And as mentioned, Houston stingy on defense. Jake Retzlaff said today to the media they play big against big teams. They're stingy on defense. They allow 22.3 points a game. That's just 2 more than BYU allows.
Yeah, and they've got some ball hawks in the secondary. So Jeremiah Wilson, who plays cornerback, has 4 picks this year. And then their safety, who also is number 2 on the team in tackles, has 5 picks. AJ Moros, I'm not even sure how you say it, but Marcy.
Okay.
But so they number 2 is the free safety. 20 is the corner. 9 picks between those 2 players in the secondary. So they're ball hawks. They're opportunistic. They hold teams down. They're physical and fast on defense. On the offensive side, we talked about it a little bit. They're struggling. 13.6 points a game. Last in the Big 12 in scoring offense, total offense, red zone offense. Their quarterback has the most rushing attempts on the team. He has 99 rush attempts. So he's very active. RPO, option, you name it. It's an interesting name. His name is Zion Chris.
They call him a Z.
Z Chris. So they haven't thrown the ball effectively. He's a big, strong, fast kid, 6'3", 210. And then the running back averages 5 yards a carry. But for some reason, they just they don't move the chains, and so they've struggled to score.
It's gonna be tough for them. It's gonna be cold, and these are Texas kids, and that affects people. We see it all the time, and it's an 8:15 start, and if it doesn't get slided a little bit, it might be 8:25.
Yeah,
but expect a full house.
Cold, dark. Are we gonna have any drones? I haven't heard.
I don't know. I haven't heard any drones. We know there aren't any jets because we're not playing in the day. But it'll be fun, and we'll be there to get you ready on game day starting at 6. And we know Ed Eyestone's going to join the show. We roll into campus. Now, I want to congratulate Ed and the entire team, Coach Diljit Taylor, who heads up the women's program. The men take first, the women take first. A national champion sweep since 2004. That's just spectacular.
BYU dominates distance, period.
Yeah.
In the United States. It's amazing. Those 2 coaches are phenomenal.
And they just get better every year. Yeah. Remember they had Olympians a couple of years ago, and it's like, this was the year. And now this is the year. Yeah. And they just keep rolling. Shout out to both head coaches, an outstanding program. Yeah. Thank you for watching The Wise Guide.
If you like what you're watching, you can help us out by subscribing and hitting that notification button.